I will say we are continuing today in Mishna Yomi, Meseches Megillah, Perek Daled, Mishnah is Daled through Hey, chapter 4, Mishnah is 4 through 5. So the Mishnah says as follows: Hakori baTorah lo yivchos mishlosha psukim. When a person is reading from the Torah, a person should not go ahead and ever read less than 3 psukim. In other words, that an aliyah can never be less than 3 psukim. Now here the Mishnah refers to an interesting practice they used to have, which was a torgaman. Torgaman literally is a translator. So whenever they would read the Torah b'tzibur in public, they would have someone who would explain the content of the verses to the masses. So when there is a torgaman, you only read one pasuk at a time in order to give the torgaman time to translate before the Baal Koreh moves on. Uben Navi Shlosha. But let's say if they're reading Navi, for example, Haftorah, so you could read 3 psukim at a time and give the Torgaman 3 psukim kind of at a clip in order to translate. The Bartanura explains that we don't want the Torgaman to make a mistake in his translation of the psukim of the Torah. Therefore, we only give him one pasuk at a time. But the psukim of Navi, again, we don't have to be as precise with all of the details or translations, and therefore we can give him 3 psukim at a time. Hayu shlosh and shalosh parashios, koren echad. But let's say in the Haftorah that you're reading, it happens to be you have 3 psukim, but the 3 psukim are from 3 different parshios, 3 different sections. So ultimately, in that case, koren echad. Then halacha lemaisa, we would go ahead and read them one at a time. Medalgim and medalgim Torah. You could skip around in Navi, but you can't skip around in Torah. So in other words, remember again, this is talking about when you're reading the Nevi'im, you're reading from the prophets, b'tzibur, in the congregation. You could skip from one paragraph to another paragraph, but we don't skip when reading Torah. And the Bartanura explains, he says, now, he gives a qualification to this. He says, B'shnei inyanim, it's only true in 2 topics, but in one topic you can go ahead and skip. In general, we don't skip parshios when reading the Torah. In other words, that in one reading, we wouldn't skip from one section to another. So when reading Navi, how much can you skip? So interestingly enough, what you could do is like this, going back to what we just said before. So you could read 3 psukim at a clip, and then allow the translator to translate that for the tzibor. So interestingly enough, how much can you skip, how far can you skip, as long as there's not a pause. In other words, while the Torgaman is delivering his translation explanation, the Baal Koreh could skip. He could skip, but it has to be so that by the time that the Torgaman finishes his translation, we're ready to go ahead and pick up the Kriya again. So what you begin to see essentially is you could skip, but you don't want the skipping to be a tircha de tzibura. You don't want the skipping to cause just undue difficulty or delay for the tzibur. Beautiful. Mishna Hey, Hamaftia Benavi who pores al Shma. So this is actually interesting. The person who was given the honor, the covet of reading the Haftorah, he's also the person who gets to be pores al Shma. Pores al Shma we spoke about in yesterday's Mishnayos, Shabbos Mishnayos actually. The idea that if people come late to Shul, they miss Baruch Hu, you can make a minyan, say Baruch Hu, say the brachos of Kriya Shema. So the person who gets the honor of reading the Haftorah, we bundle the honors. He also gets to go ahead and do pores al Shma over the Fnei Ateva. He also gets to go ahead and be the Chazan. V'unosi es kapav, and if he is a Kohen, ultimately again he leads the Kohanim in duchening. Now the idea seems to be that they wanted to make sure that the honor of reading the Haftorah was something that would be coveted, something that would be mechubad in people's eyes, and therefore they bundled these other honors together with the reading of the Haftorah. Vim hayakatan, but if the person who was reading the Haftorah was a katan, was a child, and therefore again, aviv or rabbo over in al yado. So obviously again in this case, although technically speaking a katan could go ahead and read the Haftorah, but a katan really can't fulfill any of the other chazan responsibilities. So he couldn't be pores al Shma, he could not be the chazan. If he's a Kohen, he could not lead the other Kohanim in duchening. In that case, aviv o rabbo over in al yado. In that case, again, if it's the katan who read the Haftorah, then his father or his Rebbe could have the ability to go ahead and take his place in the, we'll call it the congregational aspects of leadership. All right, so we'll stop over here for today. Yashakayach, everyone, wishing everyone a wonderful day.